Milliseconds, yes, most of the world in trading are measured in nano, micro, and milli.
So, if I were to hold you there, milliseconds, sometimes I feel it's only our own minds and traders who think of it, but they can't really perceive it. So, it has become a fashion statement to become faster, even faster. After a point of time, it really does not matter. Is that true? Or is there much more to it?
In the broking industry, there are three, four main important areas. One is account opening, right? Get new customers in. The second one is orders, right? Every order should go through really well at low latency. I think being kind and being a better human being, that's the only thing that does matter.
Our final question, a life principle that you believe in and live by. Hi, welcome to the Core Conversation, a show where we have conversations with the doyens of technology and marketing. With me is my co host, Jaimit Doshi, and our guest today is Balaji, who is the Chief Technology and Digital Officer at ICICI Direct. Welcome to the Core Conversation, Balaji.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, yours is an industry of milliseconds. Everywhere else, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, you measure latency and outcomes and performance in milliseconds. Talk us through how that world is.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks. Before I start, right, the opinions that I'm going to share are my own, not belong to my employer. Uh, Milliseconds, yes, most of the world in trading are measured in nano, micro, and milli. Any web page typically is measured in couple of seconds, right? Users get bored, they move on if the page does not load in 2 seconds. But for the 2 seconds to happen, right, most of the components underneath have to perform much faster. But that's for pages. But when you do trading, right, the ticks are usually sent by exchange in milli, nano, micro, right? So typically any volatile stock has about 15, 20 ticks every second, right? So, and human eye can refresh only in 300 milliseconds, which is thrice in a second. So anything faster than that, we can't see it. It's a blur. It's a very different world, right? There are specialized switches which operate at speeds that we would like to operate on, right? Not all switches and devices perform at the same speed, right? It's a very different world, yes.
So, if I were to hold you there, milliseconds, sometimes I feel it's only our own minds and traders who think of it, but they can't really perceive it. So, it has become a fashion statement to become faster, even faster. After a point of time, it really does not matter. Is that true? Or is there much more to it? You spoke about risk and you spoke about some of the back end operations. Can you explain on that?
Sure, sure. So while a human eye, as I said, cannot perceive beyond faster
300.
than 300 milliseconds, right? That's what iOS also recommends as the refresh rate, right? So, but the price movements happen much faster. So when more and more people, price movement is actually trades and requests that are being made by millions of customers. India is a large country, right? So every request that they make is eventually turns out to be a tick. Every order that they put in turns out to be a tick in the system, which means if there are 15 ticks in a second, which means 15 orders somewhere are being executed for that particular stock, right? That's why there are so many of them. And in a lot of volatile stocks, F&O, etc., the movement is much more higher. So while and it probably makes more sense for a lot of us to invest, right? But trading is a different game. There are people who excel at it. There are quants, mathematicians who are pretty good at it, right? As an individual trader, SEBI does say that most people lose money in F&O, right? Which is
That's a
SEBI
disclaimer
study.
you have to accept before you start trading.
True, right? SEBI is saying it. Yeah, yeah, it's done a lot of research, right? Which is very true. So individually, if you believe that you can emotionally ride the market, um, probably we're flawed, right? Then, yeah, yeah. So a lot of guys who are pretty good at maths are hired by many of these trading firms to run quant-based algorithmic systems. They operate in nanoseconds, right? Which is 10 power minus 9. Yeah, so it's a different world, but that's not for everybody, right?
That's what, yeah.
So I think from an investing perspective, at least my take is that uh, tracking the market every single day, understanding the movement, the fundamentals, how the economy is changing for that particular industry, right, is fairly complex. I mean, there are people in the country who are willing to do this for a small fee for you. IIT grads are fund managers mostly, right? The best in the country are willing to do it for you for a small fee. I'm not going to be able to afford to personally hire them, right? And that's mutual funds. Invest in mutual funds सही है.
So, I get what you're saying, but just for a lot of the viewers of the podcast. So, what you're saying is that milliseconds, microseconds, nanoseconds, etc., is there in the trading world. But for a lot of average investors who are probably not writing code and burning it on the chip and putting it next to the place where the ticks are coming from the exchange, for them, they shouldn't be really worried about micro milli. In fact, you are saying keep a month second. After 1 month, you go and look at the price if you really want to, in that sense. But if I were to just hold you just back, because you've come from a background earlier in IFL and then Infosys, etc. When, as a CTO, you're looking at an infrastructure and architecture that works in nanoseconds or microseconds, the pressure as well as the investments as well as the architecture would be of a different order, things that we as a lay viewer of your podcast find it impossible to kind of fathom.
Uh, yeah, it is a solved problem, fortunately, right? We have a very decent sized broking industry in the country. So there are products, there are partners, there are resellers who sell equipment. There are people who configure this network. So it is a solved problem, and people are there to fine tune it for you to get that performance out of the equipment. Uh, but it requires constant vigilance and monitoring, right?
Correct.
Then there is the security angle, right?
Correct.
Security adds its own gates, rightly. It pauses you at various entry barriers, etc., to inspect the packet, right? Inspect who's coming in, who's going out. It's like the security in any store that we have, right? He runs a wand around you and sees, right? So the traffic does slow down, right? But that's a necessary part of life. So similarly, all those security equipment also perform at those necessary speeds that we run. So the investments are large in security business. The regulatory direction is also rightly so. Is There are a lot of regulations that have come in the recent past, right? So protecting the investor predominantly, right? So those keeping those in mind, keeping the security concerns in mind, yeah, it is a tech ops job day in day out. Fortunately, the market runs for 6.5 hours, so
At
yeah.
least you can sleep for some time.
True, true. But there's 24/7 vigilance because next morning the markets have to open. The equipment has to perform really well. So there are guys who come in at 6 in the morning typically, uh, do all the checks, ensure that everything is hunky-dory um, before the market opens at 9. Yeah, and the cycle continues.
I want to build on what you talked about as the CTO role. So, one angle could be you're like an architect, the other angle is like a Sherpa. So, how do you think of your role and what really CTOs should be thinking of themselves?
Right. I think any leader is leader of this servant of their people, right? So yeah, unless I mean, talent is one that differentiates every company, right? And unless he's able to channelize that talent, trust that talent, provide slight steering in terms of getting to the right place, right? So I think that's typically what any leader should be doing, and CTO as a leader ought also to be doing, trusting the people, providing the vision, and slight course correction. Right, but there is a lot of architecture, like he did point out. Right, the equipment is complex, the vigilance is ruthless. I think the whole world is changing on terms of technology. Right, with all those changes, how do we adopt them? What is the right way to adopt any of these changes without impacting the latency again? Right, the security needs, customer privacy, quite a few things that come into place. Right. Now, getting the architecture right is not easy, right? And uh, fortunately, there are a lot of basic guidelines that an experienced architect has to offer, right? Following those thumb rules does most of the work done, right? Then others are a lot of proof of concepts, right?
So one of the big things people I think don't understand, and I worked long enough in finance, that even a 25-year-old company has a lot of legacy systems coming in. And today technology is moving at a rapid rate, and people don't realize that some of our old systems are still legacy, and we have modern systems that come in, and people want to digitize, move fast, bring in AI, and all the old systems and the architecture is very, very intertwined. And it's probably not easy. And the role of the CTO is also hold the core so that it doesn't get spoiled or doesn't cause issues, but also innovate, go fast, try new things. So, how does one balance, and how do you think through what do you hold core, what do you move, what do you break? How does this work?
Yeah. So, yeah, 25 is also legacy is much older than that, right? Yeah. So that's funny. Uh, Systems have been built, and they are durable, but eventually they get replaced. But
Correct.
yeah, they get replaced. So a lot of these new regulations, for example, like you pointed out, right? When they come in, how and where do we fit in, right? One has to have clarity on what is core. So otherwise, hollow the core has no meaning, right? So the way I look at in the broking industry is there are three, four main important areas. One is account opening, right? Get new customers in. The second one is orders, right? Every order should go through really well at low latency, right? Third is positions, right? People should be able to see what their positions are, right? So that they can make decisions on whether they want to exit or make additional investments, etc. And finally, it is settlement. So if these four areas are working really, really well, that is the core. So anything that we build, which are not any of these four, should be built outside the core. Having said that, each of these is also not entirely dependent on each other, right? So, for example, account opening has nothing to do with the trading in itself, right? Build it separately, right? Once an order is placed, positions are calculated slightly differently because positions are based on trades, not on orders.
Correct.
For example, right, when you place an order of let's say 100 Infosys, right, somebody else also needs to buy 100 Infosys at your price, right? That's when the matching happens at the exchange. So let's say somebody else is interested in only 25 Infosys at that price. So a trade of 25 happens and you get a trade back from the exchange of 25. then let's say there's a 75 that somebody else is interested in buying that. So for the order that one order that you sent in, you get 2 trades back in this example, right? So positions is based on trades, not exactly orders, right? So and position order has been once sent to an exchange. Position is much more dynamic, where as the market price moves, you can either be negative or positive, right? And you can have multi-legged orders which will get automatically triggered based on various price conditions. So yeah, don't build a lot of stuff in one place. Keep it small, keep it nimble, keep it agile, keep it testable, right?
But somebody would have written some code in some system which is core and
Right.
then trying to pull that out. That
Yeah.
must be a fun job.
Yeah, that's a difficult job. Fun is a nice way to put it. Yes, it is not easy. So, test, right? So, when we break down existing applications, we start with creating tests first, right? So, and as we break down, those tests should still continue to work. So yeah, it's also, I mean, software engineering is called engineering, not just art, right? While a lot of code writing is still art, the process of engineering is still, there is a science to it, there's a methodology to it which has been established. So these engineering practices can easily be followed by people, right?
So also, Balaji, what's happening is that the role of the CTO is changing. What essentially was a sort of back office job is now front. I mean, your systems are really the interface to the customer. So how have you seen this evolution? What's coming up next in this?
Yeah. So broking is a very digital business, right? You cannot touch and feel money. You don't typically touch and feel your money anymore. It's all in the bank, digital, right? So customer uh, being able to execute tasks by themselves, being able to self-service, right, is very easy in the broking space, right? Some complex products, people may need to have a lot of knowledge, right? It's easy to go wrong there. Like we did discuss F&O, right? A lot of people lose money. But from as somebody in this digital friendly business, right? So the way tech has is being used is not just running a lot of bad jobs at the end of the day, right? Or being able to run infrastructure. It is about building websites, engaging with customer usability, right? How measuring dropouts, a lot of analytics in terms of finding out which pain area could be easily addressed, right? Removing friction, right? A lot of stuff tech is aiding, right? There are tools, for example, which tell you on a web page where that customers are trying to click an image which looks like a button, but it actually is not it's just a fancy image to make it look pretty, and people mistake it for a button. Maybe we need to change that image so that there are not so many clicks on a on a section which is not intended to be clicked, right? So a lot of this is digital, measuring dropouts and easing friction. I think is a lot more digital than earlier CTOs used to manage, right?
In fact, I was reading an article recently about Robinhood in the US. And the core idea there is that every asset in the world can actually be tokenized and then be traded. It's a fascinating explosion. And the other related point which was made was that intergenerational transfer. So as money moves from the older generation to the younger generation is completely wanting to be digital only. So that is the opportunity that they see. So they of course started in stock trading and maybe crypto, but now they see the opportunity as trillions of dollars, essentially where assets are going to get tokenized, fractionalized. In the US, you can also do fractional stocks. So it'll probably open up to a much wider base.
Possibly, possibly. Yeah, yeah. Robin Hood did revolutionize, disrupt the U.S. Broking market. Yes, but yeah, we'll have to wait and watch and see how it pans out in our country.
And just taking a leaf again from Rajesh's question of um tech being the forefront, in many ways, do you believe that we will see a scenario where the CTO is responsible for profits or responsible for P&L? Do you think that such a scenario would come up because broking is a digital first firm and that is the front face?
Yeah. So currently, this role is taken care by somebody called a CDO, right? Chief Digital Officer. Where
And you are both.
yeah, I'm both. I'm both. Right. So yeah. So P&L lines being new P&L lines being created. That is the expectation of the digital officer, right? Being able to introduce products so that customers can be better engaged, right? So at this point of time, I'm as the digital lead also, right? A lot of my focus is on improving the profitability, right? Not create new lines, but being able to optimize the existing lines.
So if only
But yes, that
marketing,
does exist.
if only CMOs could learn from you.
What is the kind of processes or way of thinking that once you leave the room that stays with the team, that in many ways can be considered a legacy?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I think, right? What I think I want to leave behind is that, so when I was growing up in the corporate world, right? I did look up for a lot of support and help, right? And some I got, some I didn't, right? So I don't want to leave some of my teammates hanging behind. So whenever anybody reaches out for help, I do provide the right guidance. The challenge is everybody has different shoes that they walk in, right? So the guidance does not fit the same way. Like when you have two kids, you with the first kid you would have thought that अभी तो पता है कि दूसरा बच्चा कैसे बड़ा करना है. The other one turns out to be very different. Right. So yeah, I think being kind and being a better human being, that's the only thing that does matter.
And
So well put.
that leads us to our final segment. Got a few very different questions for you. Your favorite book?
Yeah, this was introduced by Subhash to me, right? Mythical Man Month. Right?
What a
It's a
brilliant book.
yeah,
One of the best books that.
yeah, pretty old book, written in the 70s by IBM. It still is very relevant. I mean, one phrase that I do remember really well is some one manager was asking another, how does a project get delayed by a year, right? How would you have not noticed it? Is the answer is one day at a time.
So great advice for everyone watching. Mythical Man Month. Go and read it today. Yeah, Janet.
I would give this book to every CEO because every CEO I have met in my life will always tell me put more people. So, ek to number one, the first problem is where do I get the relevant people?
Skills.
Even if I put the relevant people, the complexity when I put more people on the job just dramatically goes up. And this is something that it's not like a sales equation where one says, okay, put more people and get more distribution. It's a far more complex equation because software does rely on so many people coordinating with each other, relying on each other, working with each other. People don't appreciate software and hardware coming together, network teams coming and working together.
So now it's agents coming together. We'll see how that
We'll see
shapes
how
up.
it's
AI
perfect,
agents.
right for.
Favorite podcast?
Well, quite a few, but I regularly listen to Fin Shots daily. Right, that's a short and sweet nugget for that one day, right? And I usually don't miss it.
Great. So fin shots. One aha wow moment that you've sort of experienced.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of touching moments in my life. birth of a child, etc., is nothing can compare to
Nothing
that,
can
right?
compare to that. Nothing can compare to that one.
Yeah, but I mean, every few days there's definitely a revelation, right? I mean, I did sometimes I do tend to get very passionate about work, right? And then I realized passion is passion, emotion can be separated, and you can still be very professional in your communication with others. You don't need to get overly emotional, right, about certain aspects at work, right? Maturity is what is expected out of a leader, being able to have a sane head on his shoulder.
Great.
Because at your level, one cannot come to your level without being passionate. That is not possible. But you made an interesting point of not showing it. So I assume people would still want to feel your passion, but not feel the brunt of your passion.
True, true, true.
Interesting.
So decisions cannot be made in an emotional state. Should not be, right? It should be rational.
Great way to put it. Your hiring philosophy.
Right. Tech, there's challenge with tech is the standards are ever changing, right? What I learned about 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I think only the basics stand for today, and rest all is, I mean, all the tech that I learned or I used is not used today. So, I mean, learnability is a very important aspect, right? And figuring learnability out, there are a few tricks, interview tricks that one could apply, but I mean, anybody who has energy, right? Uh, who Anybody who is able to communicate decently well. I mean, language does not matter, right? Able to get his ideas across, and is fairly smart, right? Honest, has the right attitude, has some hunger and passion to grow, right? कुछ करते चलो, right? They matter more than hard skills themselves, right? So the other way I look at it is, if you have some of this, you would have probably picked up some hard skills, right? If you had burning passion, uh, जो भी काम किया वो ठीक से आता ही होगा.
What is your one or two favorite interview questions that we can learn from?
Oh, I ask very basic stuff, man. I mean, sometimes I'm surprised, right? That even when I hire at very senior positions, uh, I get people to write a small piece of code. A lot of them refuse.
Yeah, no? People forget to write code or think it's beneath them.
Possibly, but I mean, language doesn't matter. I mean, everybody has grown on a different language, right? In the programming world, for example, I did Java for 15, but somebody else comes in, says I did Python, .NET, C Sharp, whatever. Doesn't matter. I mean, the being able to think in terms of logic. Yeah, my favorite one is reverse a string using a for loop.
I definitely have failed.
Great. I think next time anyone come to your cabin
So they're
for an
prepared for
interview, they're
this
prepared for
one.
this one.
At least one of your hurdles says, I'm better prepared.
Our final question: a life principle that you believe in and live by.
Yeah, I think happiness is overrated, right? Yeah. So I think the goal is not to be sad, right? Not to be unhappy, right? Uh, every day, unless you're on drugs, you can't be on ecstasy every time, right? So yeah, the bunny, right? कौन सा bunny है?
Energizer. Huh?
ऐसा थोड़ी ना चलता है. I mean, the goal is not to be unhappy, not to be really sad, not to have big regrets. Small regrets तो रहते ही है. Not to have big regrets. Uh, yeah, I think that
I think
summarizes
it's a
my life
great way to put it.
philosophy.
It's a very nice way to put it. Simply put, not just live your life, keep your passion, no need to show it. Life is complex. Do simple things, do them well, and don't be unhappy.
Nice summary. Thank you.
So great conversation, Balaji.
Thanks, Rajesh, for having me.
And if I were to have one takeaway, and then I'm going to come to you for your takeaway. For me, I think it's a reminder to read Mythical Man Month again. I read it a long time ago.
Okay.
And I mean, in work, when you're there, you always, in meetings, you're always saying, why is this not happening on time? I think you always think of putting bodies even now. Okay, but it's a great reminder.
The book summary is only that much, right? There are a lot of other nuggets in that.
Nuggets in there. Yeah. I remember reading it a long time ago, but I think it's a good refresher.
I think, to add to that, I also would have read it quite some time back, and I was introduced to it by one of my IT mentors only when I asked him this stupid question as a business person. Let's put more people behind it. And he said, sit down and read the Mythical Man Month. And I don't think it was available. Some PDF copy he had sent to me saying, you read this, then we will talk. And again, I've just come back to the Mythical Man Month being the cornerstone of how organizations and complex organizations function, and the ability to just chal charge and laga de on code and on so many things just doesn't work. I think that is to be refreshed about it. Balaji, I thought was very, very interesting, and I feel excited that that will stay with me. And the other one of simply, again going back, that every company will pick up tech debt as it goes. Moment you go live, you have tech debt. But holding what is core and knowing for a CTO or even for a CMO or even for a product guy, you have to know what is your core. And you have to hold those core things, 3, 4, 5 things. Don't touch that too fast. Look at the periphery, move that around. But as long as those cores is held well by the person who's in position to not screw things up, I think that becomes extremely important. And the clarity with which you were able to list it down, I remember you like very clear, da, 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 you've obviously thought about. And that I think is very interesting. And that's a lesson for most of us to keep in mind, holding your core, knowing it and holding it stable.
Thanks.
So
Thanks.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Balaji. Great conversation. And thank you for listening, watching. We'll be back with another edition of the Core Conversation very soon.